In this video, I'll be removing the original pressed-in oil galley fittings in the engine case and tapping and threading in new plugs. First off, a little disclaimer. I struggle with calling this a how-to video because I'm just a basic garage hack and almost everything I do is done by learning as I go. So I don't want to give off the impression that this is the definitive word on how to do anything. This is basically just a culmination of what I found out when I looked into it and how I did it. From what I learned, there are a couple of reasons you'd want to do this when you rebuild your motor. One is that these plugs often collect debris that's really difficult to remove, as you can see here. And the other is that these 40-some-year-old plugs could potentially pop out at some point, I guess, and you can imagine how catastrophic that would be. So the idea is that you remove the original plugs, tap the holes, and thread in NPT tapered plugs with thread sealant that will fit tight enough to never leak. And I thought I would do this to mine because why not, as long as I have the entire block torn down for some extra reinsurance. And there are a lot of good videos on YouTube of other people doing this hack, so it looked like it wasn't too hard. One thing I found really helpful was someone's post on the Pelican Parts forums showing exactly what you need to do, and it's more or less summed up in a few images. On the flywheel side of the case, you need to tap in 3 3/8-inch plugs. On the pulley side of the case, a 1/8-inch plug circled here in red, 2 3/8-inch plugs circled in yellow, and 1 1/4-inch plug circled in green. And then on the oil cooler side of the case, or cylinders 3 and 4, there are 4 1/4-inch plugs. And here's another view of the case at an angle to better see where these are all going. I also found this really helpful. I didn't really know anything about NPT plugs or even what they were. This is a chart listing the drill bit sizes to use for each size NPT plug. The 3 you need for the Type 4 case are all at the top. For a 1/8-inch plug, an R drill bit, I don't know what that means. For a 1/4-inch plug, a 7/16 bit, and for a 3/8-inch plug, a 37/64 bit. And you can actually buy all of these sets with individual taps and the matching drill bits if you don't want to buy a whole set of each. And I think I got all of mine on Amazon. So this is my entire workflow here. I first drove screws into the plugs. Then I braced some sheet metal right behind the screw to protect the case while I pried out the cap. And then I just sort of fished out any big shavings from all of the drilling that I'd just done. Gave it a quick clean with brake cleaner, then used bottle brushes to scrub out any remaining crud left in the oil galleys. Then I just kind of went slow with the drill, making sure to keep it level. I found it easier to get the drill going fast before you ease it into the hole, or else it gets kind of caught and jumps around on you. Before I ran the taps, I just squirted in a little bit of oil. I'm using transmission oil here. Then I carefully ran the tap, backing it off periodically. This is the method that worked best for me, using a crescent wrench. A drill was too hard to control. Then I'd stop and clean out shavings and cleaned any shavings off of the tap as well. And I just continued on. And then did a test fit, and if it looked good, put some thread sealer on the plug. I'm using Loctite Thread Locker 274, I think. Then I thread in the plug permanently. And that's it. Except for a few things. One thing to mention for these 3/8 plugs on the flywheel side, you'll need to insert these plugs so they sit flush with the case so they don't interfere with the flywheel. But because these taps are tapered, In order to be able to get the plug in all the way without going too deep with the tap, you'll need another 3/8 tap and grind off about 1/8 to 1/4 inch or so. So you can start with the tapered tap, then switch to the one you cut, so the threads can be wide enough for the plug to go in flush. You'll also need to do the same thing with the 1/8 plug on the front of the case because there isn't enough depth in the material to drill in very far. And don't do what I did and dry fit the plug in too soon before the threads are established well enough.
Uh-oh. Not again. Oh, damn it. Oh, just stripped it.
I got the plug stuck pretty good and had to resort to vice grips to turn it back out, and I mangled the thing in the process. You might notice I have 3 different plugs on this case. That's because when I started this, I hadn't yet found the images I showed earlier in this video of all the correct size plugs. So I purchased a set that had plugs I didn't need, and it didn't come with a bunch that I did need. I think it was for a Type 1 motor. So I had to resort to sourcing these locally in order to get the whole thing done in one shot, giving me this mixed bag of plugs. I hope this helps anyone thinking about doing this task. I wouldn't say it's easy, but like anything, you just need to do it a few times before you feel confident at it. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Lots more to come. Thanks for watching.